Hello there, Lunar Squadron. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Star Wars Outlaws video. Today we have some incredibly exciting new gameplay information, perhaps even a brand new game mode in Star Wars Outlaws, and a ton of interesting game loop implications for this news that we cannot wait to dig into. But first, if you're new to the channel, we would absolutely love to have you, and the way to do that is go down below this video, click that little subscribe button, and make sure to hit the bell notification button right on next to it. It's going to let you know every single time that Nick and I upload the latest and greatest Star Wars Outlaws videos here on YouTube. That said, Nick, ready to get into this one?
Oh yeah, I'm always ready to talk some Outlaws.
Me too, Nick. Let's do this, guys. Of course, we are very excited for any new information on Star Wars Outlaws, and yesterday we got some really interesting new details about this game out of the South Korean Game Rating and Administration Committee. This news, while on its face might seem pretty simple, actually has some pretty deep implications to the gameplay loop in this game, and I think it makes for a really interesting conversation about this game. So why don't we just dig into it, starting off with the game rating classification decision and the reasons for the rating decision on the South Korean website itself.
Yeah, definitely, and that is the biggest part of this news that we got out of South Korea for this game. This honestly came out of nowhere, and if you look around at other rating boards around the world, none of them are really in the process of having this game put up on their website or rated. Like, of course, the rating is pending for both the ESRB and for PEGI, but Australia doesn't have anything yet. Japan doesn't have anything yet. Like, the major rating systems have not yet gotten to this. So it was pretty surprising to see that South Korea has already gone ahead and done this. And where I want to jump to is the middle portion of this, where it says reasons for rating decision. And it says an open world action adventure game produced based on the Star Wars IP. Of course, we all knew that. But where it gets interesting is the next portion, where it says realistic simulation of speculative behavior. There is a minigame with content of in-game betting and dividends. Andreas, that's pretty massive.
Yeah, it is, and there's one thing we can talk about the rating and what that means for users or prospective users of this game in Korea. But really, I think the interesting discussion globally here is this in-game betting minigame and what it could possibly be and how it could possibly feed into some gameplay loop issues that we are concerned about with Star Wars Outlaws. And what I'm talking about is, if you recall from the Star Wars Outlaws cinematic trailer, we saw Kay Vess playing sabacc, which is a card game that is used in gambling scenarios in the Star Wars universe's fictional card game. We've also seen that in the gameplay demonstration, Kay Vess had a decision where she was able to either bribe an Imperial officer, paying a small bit of credits in exchange for free passage and getting the Empire off her tail. And what's really important about this, Nick, is, of course, this game is all about the credits. You are an outlaw after all, and it is a heist game where the whole build-up and story is leading to this heist where, of course, the end goal of a heist is getting credits, and you have all these small situations like gambling, and you have bribing, and really what I'm wondering is, what is all of this good for? What do you use these credits for? Because as far as I'm concerned, Nick, and I'm sure you'd agree here, credits are kind of a means to an end, right? So what's the end in this game? That's something that I think we were concerned about, and now this is almost additional proof that with an in-game betting minigame, I'm kind of wondering here, this is going to ratchet up the importance of that currency system even more.
Yeah, this new information honestly provides a lot of exciting speculation potential here for this game. Of course, we're assuming when it's talking about an in-game betting system, we're assuming it's going to be sabacc. We've seen it in the trailer, like you mentioned. Of course, there are other potential options. We'll get to that in a few minutes. We'll have some fun with this. But yeah, like you said, the whole point of this game is getting credits. We know that the main story of this game is going to be trying to pull off this main heist where you're earning enough credits to go start a new life. The whole game revolves around crime syndicates and them trading different various, goods, spice, stuff like that for credits. It's all about the credits, and what exactly are going to be the consequences of this credit system? This is something we've talked about in the past because I think it's incredibly important for a game like this for the currency system to have some weight behind it, for it to be important. And what are you going to be able to do with this currency? Like, we already know that the Trailblazer is going to be your ship. Like, they've made it abundantly clear that that is Kay's ship. It is her home. We're not going to be able to buy new ships in this game, presumably. But what are we going to be able to do with the credits? Does that mean we're going to be able to buy new cosmetic items for Kay? Are we going to be able to buy new blasters? Perhaps we can buy a new speeder, like a land speeder, a new speeder bikes. We know that's going to be a mechanic in this game. Maybe we can upgrade our ship. I'm just really curious as to what this currency is going to be used for, because what I don't want to see, and what I've seen in some games that I've played recently that really hurts the replayability factor and just the overall enjoyment level of these games, is having a currency system that just isn't meaningful. It just doesn't matter. You earn this currency and you're like, why should I care? And I think it's really important for a game like this to have a currency system that matters, because if I have the ability, like they've talked about and they've hyped up, to screw over various crime syndicates for more money or keeping goods or whatever, why should I care if the currency that I'm getting in exchange doesn't mean anything? Like, this has got to mean something, and there's got to be something cool behind it. We've seen in other games that have similar systems where there is this in-game betting, mini games, or mechanics. You know, I think of Red Dead Redemption, GTA Online, those types of games where the currency system matters. Those games where it's all about getting as much money as possible. It's because then you can go out and buy really cool stuff. You can buy new cars, planes, helicopters, guns, outfits, like all this really cool stuff. And I'm really hoping that they have found a way to do something similar with Outlaws, where it just feels meaningful to collect these credits, especially if they're building in all of these mechanics and mini games such as this.
Yeah, I think it's one thing for credits to just be a number that you want to increase, presumably, but it's a whole other thing for this studio to actually give meaning to that number. As a player, when you're sitting at a table across from an Imperial officer, you want to feel that feeling in your gut of like, wow, I worked really hard for these credits. I'm saving up for something that is important or valuable for me. And this is going to be a setback if I bribe this officer. So I think those little moments are going to be that much more meaningful if you can actually do something meaningful with your credits. And gambling really does play into that, because I foresee situations that could potentially be really cool for this game, situations that you could understand a smuggler being in. We've all seen Han Solo in situations where he has to make these outrageous bets and gambles in situations where he's playing sabacc, because he's gotten himself into a really sticky situation, and putting it all in is the only way that he can get himself out of that situation. I want to be put in situations like that meaningfully in an actually tangible economy in this game, where I feel the pressure of those moments as a scoundrel in the Star Wars galaxy. So again, this gambling thing that is presumably a new mode in this game is going to be really important, and I can't wait to see how they toy around with that. And I'm thinking that there could be a few options for what the gambling could be.
Yeah, there definitely could be. I think this is a great way to shift this conversation into the more fun portion of this video. Of course, we're talking about, hey, we think this is going to be a sabacc mode. Like, that's the obvious answer, right? It's what we've seen Kay doing in the trailer. When you think of gambling in Star Wars, off the bat, your head immediately goes to sabacc. However, Andreas, let's have some fun with this. What else could this be?
There are a lot of different sports or games that are used in gambling scenarios in Star Wars fiction. Of course, we all know about Nunaball. We all know about Dejarik. And I mean, I'm not even mentioning pod racing here, because we all know that people bet on pod racing. But what if I told you, Nick, that there is actually another betting sport that was featured in the Star Wars Outlaws gameplay, but it was featured in the back of the diner in Janta's Hope behind a pillar in Arabesh, and it was just seen in the corner of the screen for a brief moment. It actually is a pretty cool gambling reference in the Star Wars universe.
Obviously, I would believe you. This is Lunar Squadron after all. We noticed those things. Why don't you go ahead and tell us more?
Oh yeah, if you guys recall from this shot right here in the back corner in Arabesh, it says Arca Euroka. And if you didn't know, Arca Euroka was a fathier jockey, which, of course, fathiers are those horse-like animals that race around the racetrack in Canto Bight, and we all know that Canto Bight is going to be in this game, so I'm wondering if we are going to be able to bet on fathier races and fathier jockeys on Canto Bight. I'm just seeing the dots connecting here. Could be another cool way to gamble in this game.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Now, of course, in all seriousness, we think it's just going to be sabacc. We don't think they're going to do something crazy like fathier racing. But I will say, Andreas, when you mentioned the whole thing about pod racing, I hadn't really thought about that. And they have talked about Tatooine and how robust they plan on making Tatooine in this game and how they wanted it to be to scale. So, like, being able to bet on the Boonta Eve or something like that, like on Tatooine, like that would be really cool. I'm excited to see just how robust this system is in this game because, again, we've talked about this before in the past. It feels like every time we learn something new about this game, it's just really cool, and it really adds to the overall grandiose of what we think this game is going to be, and I am just more and more excited to get our hands on this game the more we learn about it. And now that these ratings are starting to roll in, and what we've heard on a potential release date being as soon as May to June, if not July, somewhere in there, we could be really close to being able to finally experiencing this game, and that is so exciting. So guys, let us know your thoughts on all this down below. The rating system coming out of South Korea. What do you think about this in-game betting mini-game that will be featured in Star Wars Outlaws? Do you think it will be sabacc? Do you think it could be fathier racing or perhaps pod racing or something crazy like a Nuna Ball like on the Outlander Club? But obviously we're not going to Coruscant in this game. Like, what do you think this in-game betting mechanic is going to be? If I had to bet on it, I would say it's probably sabacc, but that's just the obvious answer. Guys, let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. We love reading everything that you guys have to say. Anyway, that is going to do it for us for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you all next time.